Welcome to the Rob Liefeld Show featuring Robservations. I bring over 40 years experience in comic books and entertainment across 5 decades. I offer insights and opinions on the business and the art of comic books and pop culture. If it's happening in games, in movies, in streaming, or comic books, we're covering it right here on the Robservations Show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Rob Liefeld Show featuring Robservations. So happy to see you again, so happy to have you here and to be able to talk about comics and pop culture and comic book movies and shows and streaming and all the stuff that we jam about each and every episode. Some of you have asked, the Rob Liefeld Show is the title for the video component, the part that we put on YouTube. And this show stays Robservations on all of the dedicated podcast networks that carry us. We are at 450. This will be our 451st episode, if you can believe this. It's crazy. But the Rob Liefeld Show is for the YouTube, the video portion. We now have video portions also available on Spotify. Hope you guys are enjoying what we're doing across any of the different platforms that you interact with us on, whether you're jogging, working out, driving, wherever that this show finds you. I just appreciate your patronage, the fact that you listen and that you share so much of your enthusiasm. I have just returned from an extended time away, just worked like crazy, literally since Christmas vacation. But when I say work, it's not work. The work of it is putting it all together at the end. The work of a comic book for me comes in coordinating with the letterer in the production stage and getting the files up to the printer and then picking from paper quality on through. So the work doesn't, I don't refer to the work part in terms of any stress in regards to the actual drawing and the making of the comics. I love that. I enjoy it so much. It is, it doesn't feel like work. It is just an expression of creation and joy, and it never really brings me anything but happiness. The work, the stress stuff is, like I said, connecting all the pieces. So since it's about Christmas, when I say Christmas vacation, we go away as a family. We grab this place up in the mountains and we all come together and hang out. And again, when everyone's sleeping and after they go to bed, I'm up drawing. I just love drawing out by the lake, looking over a forest of trees, being in nature, period. And then the vacations that we just went off, that my wife and I just went on, I get to draw on these spectacular locations, some of which I've never been to before, as we were recently in Greece, overlooking just some incredible vistas, the ocean, and islands, and just spectacular. And so I don't see it as work when I'm making these comic books. But so I was away, but I was able to be productive because it's part of just the experience to me. I can't just like sit around doing. We don't watch TV at all during vacations, and which if you do, great, good for you. We don't, but we also just kind of take it. We slow down. We shift downwards. And if there's an afternoon nap that Joy is going to take, I'll grab my drawing stuff and I'll continue to draw. So anyway, missed seeing you guys for the time that we were away, but we're back now. It's summer comic book season. It's summer movie season. Seems like the comic book and the movie season are doing well. There's enough kind of hits, specials, projects coming out. But I'm going to tell you right now, as I look over the catalog and I look over what's coming, it seems like the big guns have all positioned themselves for the fall. It's literally like the spring and the summer, which used to be like where everybody kind of got down. It's really shifted to fall over the last couple of years. I was talking to 2 of my different friends at different publishers. And if this is your first show, forgive me. I'm Rob Liefeld. I've been working in comics for 5 decades, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, now the 2020s. I've had a 40-year career and counting. Made some memorable characters: Deadpool, Cable, Domino, X-Force. Launched Image Comics with my comic book brethren. Had the very first Image comic book, Youngblood, which I am again working on now. Along the way, transformed, rebooted Avengers, best-selling Avengers title, best-selling Deadpool title, cable title, X-Force title. It's been a magical career. It's been one that I just have enjoyed so much. And over time, what you do is you accumulate experience, and you accumulate connections, and you network, and you get to know people. And there have been many tribes. There were tribes before I got into comics of friends, of talents, and there are tribes in my era, and now there's new tribes in the eras that have followed. And there are some people who have sat on their thrones at the different publishers for a very long time, and then there are some who really just some new faces, some new people, some fresh outlooks. Those are getting fewer and far between, by the way. But I maintained some great relationships over long periods of time, and I'm very fortunate to get to peek behind the curtain all the time. And sometimes there's stuff coming, and I'm telling you right now, there's stuff coming that is the basis of a couple of warring factions. And my friends at the publishers will confirm this. When I say warring factions, there are people at different publishers who definitely have a competitive edge, and perhaps a beef. Let's call it a beef to grind with the other party, because it really, people make moves in this business, and as the chessboard, as the chess pieces assemble on the board, you understand over time that many of those moves are reactionary. Maybe there's something that's happened behind the scenes that you haven't known about. Maybe there's a movement of a talent that you haven't heard about, and it's so enraged the previous home of that talent that then they scheme to either punish that talent or the people that took them. And if you're like Liefeld, you don't know what you're talking. What are you talking about? Look, I'm telling you, there are at least one of the major publishers and a different publisher, but not one of the major publishers, either Marvel or DC, and another faction, not Marvel or DC, have been in this is publishing, have been having a years-long pissing match. And so much of what I see coming up, and so much of what I see positioned that's going to happen in the fall, is a reaction to some of these very competitive moves. And you'll understand them as they unfold, and some announcements that have yet to be made. But I'll be there when the time comes to connect it all for you. But my friends at the publishers that I was talking to, they were very just open and honest. And I was talking to them as I returned, and I said, "Hey, what's been going on? What's going on in the comics industry?" Well, and they said, "Rob, it just seems as if there is no book that is the talk of the town. There's no one book driving the market right now." Certainly, and I think we would all agree. And there have been two big, giant comics in the last 2 years, both of which launched in the fall. Transformers 2 years ago, Absolute Batman a year ago this fall. Both big fall launches, and they use the summer convention season to really drive interest and to get the spotlight on those and shift focus and get people talking, whether it was collectible ash cans or limited edition comics that they were distributing through the convention networks. And this is the playbook. You guys, this is the playbook. I can go back to Heroes Reborn. Jim and myself, we had ash cans, we had editions, we had previews of Captain America, of Fantastic Four, of Avengers at the in the July months before our fall launches. And you're like, "Hey, Liefeld, I thought you said it was summer." Summer has always traditionally been a giant crossover, a giant event that has occurred, a giant X-Men event, a giant Marvel event, DC event. This year, fall is again bringing us, you got the Marvel DC crossovers, you got Deadpool and Batman coming out from both Marvel and DC, and then you've got a brand new Batman by Matt Fraction and Jorge Jimenez. And what's interesting is Dan Mora on the DC side, who, if you are to believe all the chatter, and I do, I'm involved in it at the comic store level, what's happening under the roof of your store, what's happening on the internet, the chatter, whatever groups I jump into and I listen. Dan Mora and Jorge Jimenez are like 1A and 1B, the two most popular guys at DC Comics. And honestly, this is the stuff that I love reading about. they have very similar styles. They're coming from a very similar stylistic place. The core of how they construct figures and faces and page design, it just seems as if they are influencing each other at this point. They are very much they are very similar. That is not a knock on either gentleman. They're both extremely talented. They're both extremely successful, grabbing the spotlight that they deserve. Also, both guys you're not going to see over here in the States as much. They're overseas. I know Jorge's been over here a couple times in recent memory. I'm not sure. Dan Mora, I was grabbing his stuff on, I think it was Boom Studios. Once in Future, it was a King Arthur tale. And then he became this breakout sensation from that book and then has really flexed his muscles over at DC Comics. Dan is doing the Deadpool Batman, which is a big deal, and I imagine will be the bigger of the two books coming out because of Grant Morrison and Dan Mora. They're both kind of Dan is the super hot artist of the moment. Grant Morrison is a legendary writer, and then you've got the new Batman book coming out in September. That's going to have blind bags. That's going to have a litany of amazing artists covering it. You got a great Silvestri cover. You got Art Germ. You got Jim Lee. You got all these great. That is again a big fall event. You've got Robert Kirkman and David Finch have a brand new book that's coming out from Image. I believe it's called Skin Breakers. And man, I'm going to get in trouble if I didn't say that right. Hang on real quick. That's something I was looking at on the flight over. Let me see. Hang with me. See, it's not in real time, but I am going to do a live soon. I'm going to figure out how to do a live, and that's going to be great. We're going to do a live here, so it'll be like Skinbreaker. Boom! It is from Robert Kirkman and David Finch is also launching in September. So a lot of new books, and then we don't know what October and November have yet to reveal. But it just feels like I didn't get a sense this summer, other than the one shots that we talked about, where Predator is battling the Marvel Universe, Godzilla is battling the Marvel Universe, Godzilla is battling Spider-Man and Fantastic Four and X-Men and the Avengers in separate, isolated event books. A lot of these one shots and limited series really leaning into the licensing component. It's where we're at. We talked about it the last time, the time before that. We are in this team up mashup stage. Here's what I'm going to tell you about where I see comic books at the moment. I see comic books with its back up against the corner. Sales have been dropping radically across the board. You get these giant event titles that launch up here, and then everything else is way down here. That's what nobody wants to talk about, that everything else is way down here. But we have become a very effective comic community at making these giant launches, at getting all the focus. And then if you saw some of the drops in some of these books, it would shock you. Once all the special bells and whistles are taken away, they drop. Now, the bells and whistles are now kind of I'll say an absolute, a little nod to absolute, an absolute essential component that's expected. So, and once again, full disclosure, I've got books I'm launching. I'm doing all sorts of bells and whistles, okay? It's out there. The bottom line is, once you get out of the top 15, and we're talking 600 comics a month, guys. Once you get out of the top 15, top 20, you're looking at some really, some of the lowest numbers the business has ever seen. And it's no different than, as I'm doing this, it's the lowest Pixar original ever, like this Elio. Remember, this is the year that Marvel was going to do great things. And can I just say something about you guys? And really, I hope I have your attention. There is a Marvel fan base, a Marvel soldier almost. I don't want to say zombie. That was for the publishers. That was for the publishing aspect. But you have wrapped your identity, it seems, in the MCU. It's like you've become this MCU. And what happened is, along the way, you're so confused because the MCU has stopped delivering what it used to give you, which is, if it was sports, it'd be championships and titles and championships, rings, banners. And Marvel has been unable to summon that. And everybody goes, oh, but Rob, what about I've said this before. Deadpool Wolverine is an anomaly. It is not a Kevin Feige product. Did he interact with it? Yes, but it is really the vision of Ryan Reynolds and what he picked up making the first two movies and then ultimately getting access to the catalog of MCU stuff that he was able to access. Deadpool Wolverine feels like no other Kevin Feige movie, because it is no other Kevin Feige movie. It's a Ryan Reynolds movie. The Kevin Feige movies, the stuff that we've been very disappointed with, the Ant-Man 3, this isn't personal also. He is the producer. He is the master guy. If there's another guy, let's talk about him, but there isn't. He's the guy behind the desk who would stand up there and cheer when Endgame broke records. But since then, what's broken is Marvel. And we've discussed it ad nauseum on my podcast, but maybe Fantastic Four turns it around, but it was supposed to be Thunderbolts that was going to turn it around, Captain America 4 that was going to turn it around, and Ant-Man 3 that was going to turn it around, and Thor Love and Thunder that was going to turn. None of those worked. All of those, no matter what, I mean, they would love to have the money, Thor, Love and Thunder, but I don't even pick on Marvel's. Marvel's lost hundreds of millions of dollars. Did you know, I'm not sure that Marvel's internationally made $200 million total, internationally, with overseas. So where the Marvel films are coming from, there's this fan, and they have wrapped themselves in this I'm an MCU guy. Okay, that's great. What you should wrap yourself, the cape you should put on, the platform you should champion is quality, not just a brand name, because that brand name is eventually going to put out crap. And then it'll be like, wait, but I wrap myself in this brand and I can't say that this brand is crap. Don't wrap yourself in the brand. Look for quality wherever you go. And like with this Disney launch, I mean, so Disney is the umbrella that you get Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar, right? Pixar launches this absolute lowest launching ELO. Don't know anything about it, just reading about it this morning. Have no intention to see it. I've grown out of that stuff. Obviously, I'm 57. Okay, that's not my audience, but I can read about it. And then Snow White, like literally the trades, one of the major trades says the disaster of the year is coming to streaming. Disney's biggest flop. This is how it's, okay, formed. Then you've got all the Thunderbolts articles talking about how much money it's losing, hundreds of millions of dollars. $100 million at least they have it pegged. When they were trying to tell you, no, this is new. We're going to look back in a year when it's more comfortable and everything's calmed down. They took they pulled back the curtain as fast as they could 3 days in. It's not Thunderbolts. It's really New Avengers. It's New Avengers. And what they did is they compromised the Avengers titles. Now they have an Avengers title where the Avengers was pure. Now you've said, well, the Thunderbolts is an Avengers family title. It has Avengers in the title now. It's really the Avengers. They tried to get theaters to rename it Avengers. The MPAA wouldn't let them. Once you filed the Motion Picture Association of America, it has to stay. You can't get people to suddenly change the mask to Avengers. You can put a poster up that now has an asterisk and says Thunderbolts, the New Avengers, and put the DVD out as they are. But it's like all of these losses. You go, but Lilo and Stitch. Lilo and Stitch is now necessary to cover the losses of Snow White, of Captain America, of Thunderbolts, and now Elio. Disney is having Lilo and Stitch, and then Fantastic Four are two rockets that need to go way up in the sky and carry this giant load, rise above all the losses. In the comic book world, you got all these books that are just barely breaking even. They're barely breaking even domestically. And so what you need is these giant events. And the events are coming this fall. That's the end all be all. That's what I'm speaking of. And I look forward to seeing how they do. I hope they do great. I hope they excite readers. I hope they excite fans. I hope they excite retailers. I hope they excite me. I'm always looking for a good time. I am looking like the Poison song of my youth. Nothing but a good time, okay? I'm looking for nothing but a good time all the time. So in the comic book world, after Transformers and Absolute, Batman. And there have been other Absolute books for sure. But Absolute Batman is like the winner chicken dinner. It is the big deal. And honestly, it's the book that I feel like, Scott Snyder has cemented himself as the Batman writer of the ages. He is, to me, he's, I just hear knocking on heaven's door right now. Okay. I like he is knocking on the Frank Miller. Frank's got it sealed up, but he has risen above like almost everybody else, showing that with two completely different visions, two completely different creative teams, Scott can deliver this vision. Success should be celebrated. We're here, celebrate it. Failure should be something that we learn from. And I've looked at the comic book community from all different shapes and sizes. And you know what? There is a group that, and let's just take a little minute, and because I love to make a point, and I love to make a point, especially when it drives somebody crazy and they gnash their teeth. Uh, there is a group of people who watch this show just to hate on it. Some guy rushed to the comments the other day to tell me that I had said something wrong, and I had. But I said, "Did you not listen 10 minutes later when I corrected it in the show? Did you not listen further into the show where I said, oh, that group wasn't called this. This group was called this." So there's a group of haters. But I come at things through experience, and I want to learn as much as anybody else. I was hired to reboot and restore a franchise that was dormant called the Avengers, called the Fantastic Four. Called Captain America. Jim had the Fantastic Four. Those books were in the 20 to 40,000 range. When Spider-Man and X-Men were in the hundreds of thousands. And when we took them, we took them to all new heights that they've never achieved since. Avengers, I've shared it here. I think it pained Marvel to admit that the best-selling Avengers of the last... No, I'm sorry. It's in the record books. The best-selling Avengers of all time, even more than the first issue in the 60s, is the 1996 Avengers relaunch. And so I've been that guy. Jim Lee has been that guy. We've been guys who are hired to reboot. Snake Eyes, a book that one retailer told me recently, "Hey, Rob, the best work I've had from you in years is Snake Eyes." And he said, "I'll tell you why it was better than Deadpool." There's lots of Deadpool product. And the Deadpool product kind of, and Marvel will tell you this, they have a problem keeping Deadpool kind of at the top of the charts. And they told me, they said, Rob, literally 2 years ago, "Rob, we have a Deadpool problem. We just can't seem to get the book." Well, and I've offered up to you why that is. You've made him into a campy joke. In the comics, in the movies, the version that he is best known out of, and if you look at all my statues, every Deadpool statue that I have has a violent component, a gun, a sword. Dozens have been made. He's in an action position. He's doing something, quote unquote, action-based or violent-based. Not goofy, not comical, not stupid. You know, I've said the biggest applause that came from the Tim Miller big trailer reveal at Hall H. I was right there with my kids and the entire audience that they stood up and they clapped and they said, "One more time." Chris Hardwick, it's on camera. He freaks. "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" Hall H rose to their feet. The last shot when he jumps over and with one bullet puts it through three guys' heads and their heads explode. All the hardest R-rated gore violence in a comic book film to date. Deadpool should be edgier. They leaned into making him a complete goofball, and I'm not sure who those people are. I think they wanted to separate him because he was closer in tone to a Spider-Man, a smart ass, a wise ass, somebody who said funny things while he committed action and violence. And then they became obsessed with him being this kind of troll personality. Doesn't work as good in the comic books. Get back to the core of who Deadpool was and why he sold millions when I did him, okay? The Jim Lee's been the fixer. I've been the fixer. Snake Eyes, I was the fixer again. That book, G.I. Joe, was selling 2,500 copies. I said, did I miss a comma here? We said we did 100,000 Snake Eyes, dead game. And people said people love Snake Eyes. They wanted to see him in an exciting way. You delivered it. And he's like, "Rob, Snake Eyes," and I've been told over now for 4.5 years. It is one of my I'm so glad that I did that assignment, that I checked that off the bucket list, and I was able to kind of give a higher profile because I was like, wait, my childhood feels betrayed. G.I. Joe should not be a book that people are overlooking. But I was able to, and Hasbro called me, thanked me, made action figures based on Dead Game that they didn't tell me about. They wanted to surprise me. They did. Really fun stuff. So when it comes to the nuts and bolts of comic books, and if the success that I've had really frustrates you, what am I supposed to do? I'm certainly not going to apologize for it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lean into what I know and apply that to what I do, and then look at how other people do what they do. We have become a comic book culture that is too reliant, in my opinion, on covers. I know it's cool. They're like the trading cards of our age. And now with blind bags, we are completely leaning into, this mystery bag appeal. It makes me wonder, are we all going to go to bagging comics very soon, or will all of the books in the top 10? Something to think about when it happens 2 years from now. remember you go, wow, Rob talked about it. I have watched all manner of different publishers and different talents and executives take their stab at creating their own version of success. I was telling my wife when we were on vacation, the first Zero comic to my memory is Alien Predator from Dark Horse Zero. No one had done a Zero. If they hadn't been done in about 30 years. They did a high profile Alien Predator Zero, and everyone got so excited. Everyone started to then experiment with zeros. I told my wife at a party, Bob Wayne, who used to run the marketing and the promotions of DC Comics, they did an entire crossover. I believe it's 1995, maybe it's 1994, called Zero Hour. And it culminated at the end of that crossover. Zero month, every DC comic got a zero, a number zero, Wonder Woman zero. I'm going to tell you a funny story. The week those shipped, we happened to be having an Image Partners meeting at Todd McFarlane's house in Arizona. So we were all staying at the McFarlanes. And that particular day, we all piled into the car. I'm talking Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri, Rob Liefeld, Jim Valentino, Eric Larson, all of us got into the car to go to the local comic book store so we could see all the first week of Zero offerings, which I think there was between a dozen, 15, 16. Wonder Woman Zero, Superman Zero, Detective Comics Zero, Green Lantern Zero, Justice League Zero, okay? And this was something that they did over the course of 4 weeks. Well, about 2 months prior to that, at San Diego, at an industry party, Bob Wayne, because he had a southern drawl, came up to me and said, "Hey, Rob, how you doing?" I said, "Oh, good. Looking forward to your Zero Hour." "Yeah, we're going to kill that Zero thing once and for all." I said, "Excuse me?" He goes, "You and your buddy's obsession with Zero comics. That's dead. That'll be finished. We're killing that in September." And I said, "What?" He goes, "Won't be special anymore." I was like, "Wow, rad. This guy just..." I've known Bob. I knew Bob since I was doing Hawk and Dove. And he just put it right on there on the line. We don't like that this number zero thing, Youngblood Zero, Wildcat Zero, all the zeros. He's like, you guys seem to cash out on those. And they do very well for you. And they do. Youngblood Zero sold 1 million copies. 1 million copies of Youngblood Zero. I'm pretty sure Wildcats did the same. Valiant was doing zero issues. DC's like, we're just going to do 1 million zero issues and make it not special. And from the mouth of the guy that came up with the initiative, right there, Bob Wayne, I laughed. I didn't take it personally. It was funny to me. It's part of the competition, okay? And I believe blind bags could be the new zeros, okay? So that we all like got in one car, and all 6 of us. I can't imagine that comic store owner as we all piled in. I'd love it if it was you. Let us know. Very dimly lit store, nice store, but I just remember it was very dimly lit, and we all grabbed different zero issues, Aquaman Zero, whatever there was, and we came home and we looked at them, we studied them. It was fun. I have more zeros in my future. I'll tell you that right now. But that's the kind of stuff. Like, it was so funny because we were just so curious. How is that going to look? How is that going to feel? And I think it did very well for DC, and maybe, in fact, it did kill the zero issue initiative as something special, as something. And look, a zero, it's before one. So is it better than one? It's kind of a number one. It's fun. That's the kind of competition I'm talking about. And I told you about 20 some minutes ago at the top of this show that there's stuff like that happening behind the curtain right now. Machinations, agendas, rivalries between one of the major publishers and another faction in the industry. And so much of what you're seeing is a result of this. And it's going to be fun to watch it play out. I'll be here. We'll talk about it when the time comes. The major thing I want to talk to you about today, it's called The Architects, Batman the Architects. I have spoken of this talent. I went back. I looked extensively at the stuff that I had said about this talent, and I still haven't said enough. This talent, the one that we're going to talk about today, is none other than one Mr. Marshall Rogers, and we are going to discuss the impact that he has had on comics. The incredible impact that he's had on Batman specifically. So Marshall Rogers passed away way too young. And much like Jack Kirby and some of these other seminal talents, had they lived, their profile and your awareness of them would be so much more. But it's up to those of us who enjoyed and were influenced, entertained by the work, to talk about them, to keep them alive. When I was on my vacation, I always take a fair amount of comic book collections and singles to read and to look at during downtime, out on whatever, a lounge chair or a great swing, out on the deck, the patio, in the house. I just look, you guys. If you haven't figured out, I love comic books. I'm obsessed with them. I have been my whole life. And it really occurred to me that somebody like a Marshall Rogers is unknown to most of you, many of you. Now, he hit big and hit, I think, as profoundly as he would when I was 10 years old. 1977 is when this body of work that I'm going to share with you hit. But this body of work has influenced Todd McFarlane. It has influenced Norm Breyfogle, and two big artists that had pretty substantial impacts on the character. I believe you can see his influence in Alan Davis. I think you can see it whether he knows it or not in Capullo, and in many people who followed. I'm going to share with you why and how he was so impactful. He passed away at 57. He passed away at my age, and while I am not a young man, that is a young age to die. And Marshall Rogers passed away in 2007. And he was 57 years old. And I'll be 58 in a couple months. So it just feels like that is really a young age to pass. And I just feel like he probably had so much more to say along the way. Other than Batman, he did a giant, impactful run on Doctor Strange. And he had some different creator-owned work that he dabbled in. But from the minute that he arrived on Batman, the entire community, the entire fan base stood up and took notice. I've talked often when I was starting to go to conventions at 11 and 12 years old. His Detective Comics, the run that he did on Detective Comics, was the stuff on the back walls, just along with the John Byrne Uncanny X-Men and some of the rare issues of the Avengers and the quote-unquote hot books of the time, the Frank Miller Daredevils. He was one of those he was one of the artists, one of the creators that people sought out, and they wanted the first issues because they wanted more of them or had missed out on them, and like me, wanted to fill in the collection because by the time I jumped on, I'd already missed some early issues. Steve Englehart, Marshall Rogers, and Terry Austin. Now, Terry Austin is also, an architect of the brilliant breakout success that John Byrne had on the X-Men, and started really with their Star-Lord combination, and Terry would ink John on an issue of Marvel Team Up as well. But the stuff that he did with John is legendary. It's classic. It's renowned. Well, so is this Marshall Rogers run. And one of the things you're going to see when I show you these is his emphasis on and very stylistic rendering of capes. And those stylistic renderings of capes would be the thing that would be able to pinpoint if someone was looking at Marshall Rogers or not. You can talk to Todd McFarlane and say, hey, were you influenced by the way Marshall Rogers depicted Batman? And he would tell you yes. He would tell me yes 30 years ago, I'm sure, because Todd likes to acknowledge the influences that shaped him as well. I love sourcing stuff. I always have. I love to share my sources. I love to share the sourcing of others, and watching people's work dramatically change and alter as they implement different sources, because it's like a band. It's like trying on a different style of music. And you see it in artists, from musicians to comic book artists to illustrators, when they decide to incorporate a different aspect or a different influence. And where that influence comes from and the extent that which it shapes them going forward is something that I've always been very fascinated with. I love to share it. I love to talk about it. Marshall Rogers 1,000% impacted and changed the way artists depicted Batman. Prior to Marshall, at the time, the guys who were doing Batman and the Batman books that I was picking up, Irv Novick, Dick Dillon was portraying Batman in the Justice League, Irv Novick in Batman comics, Jim Aparo, famously in the Brave and the Bold comic books that were some of my favorites. He comes along with this very slick, very commercial style, and it's a very brief run. It's a year-long run on Detective Comics. And now, when I say talk to you about the impact that he had with his capes, look, I'm gonna be honest. Neil Adams, did he get there first? Because this is a Neil Adams page. This is fantastic. Okay. I mean, Half-Life. I'm sorry, Half an Evil, Half an Evil, and look at that beautiful cape. This is just a stunner. Okay, so Neil Adams would be like, "Hey, when it comes to capes, pump the brakes. I'm the guy." What Marshall did from his very first depiction of Batman is he really showed you that he was going to use the cape in a way that it looked heavier, maybe more starched, like it could cut your eye out. And I went through and I have identified some of these pages. Now here's a funny story about this book. Okay, I've covered this twice. I have covered this twice on the podcast in the past. I have a foreign edition of this because Murat Michaels, one of my great friends, in my wedding, okay, 30 years ago, Murat Michaels started out as my assistant, helping me out, ruling borders on the page, making Xeroxes, erasing lines, ruling lines on backgrounds. I mean, and we just had the best time. One of the things that Murat and I were always connected by was our taste. We liked all the same stuff. And we're talking movies, we're talking television, we're talking music. We'd be jamming R&B and early rap in the studio while we were jamming. He came on early with me in the New Mutants and stayed through the transition to X-Force, and then launched his own book with me at Brigade. I put him as the penciler of Brigade. I wanted to get him up and rolling. I believed in him, and I am such a fan and have followed Murat in all his success, and we have remained extremely close. One of those times he came down, he came down to visit me. I'd say about 10, 12 years ago. We went to Tustin Tunes and Toys, the best comic selection in Orange County, the best hardcovers, soft covers, trade collections, and back issues. And Murat was like a heat-seeking missile. I've talked about this, but I just remember this very clearly because do you remember when your buddy went up to you, got that last action figure on the peg, got that last comic book off the rack? Murat went in like a heat-seeking missile, and he came out with the American version of this. So don't take my word for it. DC made a collection just of Marshall Rogers' Batman because it was so transformative. And I immediately ordered what I believe is the Greek edition, okay? I went to Amazon, and the only thing that they had was this, and I had it delivered immediately because Murat even smiled like, I got the last one. And oh my gosh, I wanted this so badly because I love the collected stuff. Like I said, I take this with, I generally look to collections. I've already flashed before you a Neil Adams collection, and now I'm flashing a Marshall Rogers collection. The collections are just so much easier to access. But early on with Marshall Rogers, if I can show you, you can see the tendrils. You can see how he's depicting the cape. The cape is very much, look at it, even in silhouette here. The cape is so essential to how he depicts Batman. He's it's very sharp. It's a character in and of itself throughout. I mean, here again, look at these two pages. I mean, first you get this shot with this beautiful. This is a shot that most people, when they're speaking of Marshall Rogers, they show. But look at the life of that cape. But then right here, look at that cape. Now again, the cape it's that unrealistic. It's way too much for him. It's way too much. It is large. It is 20 feet in diameter. But it looks spectacular on the page, right? It looks absolutely spectacular on the page. This is one of those things that you love about comic books because that cape is, I mean, it's just like the Neil Adams cape. What is it, dragging behind him? Is it collecting dust as he walks along the rooftops, the roofscapes? I mean, but this kind of exaggeration is why we love comic books. It's the stuff that I still believe that comics does so much better. I'm going to continue in sharing with you why I truly believe. I know, and the people who are there, they'll tell you the Marshall Rogers Batman. Recently, Mark Millar had, I think, Steve Englehart on his show, and he put in his promotional blurb, he said, "My favorite Batman run ever." Well, part of that is because of Marshall Rogers. I mean, look at this. Look at that, the way the cape flows and how sharp. It looks like it could cut you. Even Robin's cape has personality, but he does not allow it to overshadow or compete with on any level Batman's cape. It is so brilliant. Look, Marshall drew really, goes without saying, he drew a great Joker. He drew a great Penguin. He drew just a great rogues gallery of Batman's character. He drew a great Robin. I'm going to show you some of those faces soon. But the way that he depicted the cape is what everyone talked about. Marshall Rogers, do you see what he's doing with the cape? This is the kind of stuff. Look, we get excited about the art in comics. I've said it again. That's why they're comic books, because of the visual component. But right there, as I just sit here and share this with you, I mean, you can see the design element that he put, and I'm going to share a few more here with you. The design element that he put in the cape was something you're going to say, like, you're going to say, well, but I've seen it. No. What you have to do right now is go to 1977 with me. The reason I was telling you that it was Jim Aparo, it was Irv Novick, it was Dick Dillon that was giving us regular renditions, because Neil Adams had moved on. And while his influence remained, no one was doing it with that impact. No one was depicting Batman in that way. There is no Todd McFarlane. There is no Norm Breyfogle at this point. There's no Jim Lee depiction, no Mike Turner. What he was doing in 1977, I mean, we are talking 48 years ago. Okay? He is doing this very sharp. I surmise, just like John Byrne on X-Men, that if this stuff was to come out today, it would excite you fresh. If they told you that this guy named Marshall Rogers was doing Batman, and to your fresh eyes, you'd be like, wow, this is so clean and crisp and commercial, and it is the first time that we had seen depictions like this. Now, do Terry Austin inks help? Yes, but Marshall Rogers was also inking himself in different issues. There were a couple issues that Terry couldn't ink. Dick Giordano inked, Marshall Rogers inked, and they looked just as stunning, just as spectacular. Marshall Rogers was the engine for this new approach to Batman. So we've got another couple shots I want to share with you. This one, you'll see a version of this in when Todd did his year 2 stuff right here. This depiction of the cape right here is so. Look at that upshot. Look at that again. Is that a 30-foot cape? I mean, it's part of the appeal. What we can do with comic books is we can just exaggerate, and it fits and it works because we love the way it looks. And once we love the way it looks, nothing else matters. And so I'm going to show that to you one more time. Look at that. Look at that. This is the impact. No one had been doing this. The crispness, the sharpness of the cape, the personality. I mean, even here, I don't even have this one earmarked, but look at that cape. The cape is dominating everything about that composition, everything about that specific panel. He went out of his way to make the cape a distinct character in every issue, pretty much on every page. Here's just a reverse shot of the cape, but you can see how much personality. And 1977, this stuff looks like it was drawn today. This doesn't look dated to me. This doesn't look dated in any way, shape, or form. But Marshall Rogers paved the way. And I'm going to show you a few more just because these are just so fun to share and relive with you guys. And now with the very stylistic renditions, this is just a great splash page. Look at that. Again, look at those faces. Look at Batman coming out of the shadows. He really brought he was a breath of fresh air for Batman. I mean, 1977, Superman the movie isn't out yet. Grease isn't out yet, okay? Close Encounters isn't out yet. This is the same time that Star Wars hits. And this was the Batman that had everybody buzzing. And if you didn't have one, you wanted one. And I think demand has since driven the collections like these. But Marshall Rogers, how often do you hear his name? Look at that. That stands up with anything that I'm seeing today from Jorge Jimenez, from Dan Mora. And in fact, they're influenced by this, whether they know it or not. This depiction of Batman was then put in the DNA of when Todd, and Todd only did 3 issues, but his impact was severe. And a lot of it is because he leaned all the way into the Marshall Rogers of it. The stuff that, there's a side note, and I'm sure some of you have heard of it, and I'm bringing it up now because you'll mention it in the comments if I don't. Bob Kane, one of the creators of Batman, was aping some of the Todd McFarlane work that he had done on year 2 and signing his own name to it. And it was something that really bothered Todd and bothered his wife. Bob Wayne gave no credit whatsoever to those drawings, which were almost tracings of some of Todd's panels that he did in year 2. But those panels and that depiction does not exist unless this does. Marshall Rogers is that impactful. Just the as I revisited this before I, hit go on the camera, and here's the one. I mean, look at that. Look at that. This is very much influential in regard to how somebody, and I keep mentioning Todd McFarlane because he is profound. This influenced Todd's, one of the most popular artists of all time. His depiction of Batman and how he would depict Batman in year 2. I grabbed his Marshall Rogers Batman was so popular they made a dedicated portfolio of it. They shared there was a Sal Quartaccio portfolios were a thing back in the day. Look at that baby. Look at that sweet mama. I'm sorry about the reflection, but this is Marshall Rogers. There was a Batman, the Batman portfolio based on his work. A guy whose name you probably haven't heard of recently, a guy whose name you might not have heard of before. But we are a show about the history of comic books and glorifying the creators. Because without the creators, you don't get that statue right there. And I'm just going to say this right now. It cracks me up. The scripter, who, the guy who put the dialogue over my stories that I wrote, because I was attributed as the writer, he told me once, about 5-6 years ago, no, what am I talking about? A decade ago. I don't like when you say that if someone were to shoot you and to take you out, if a Terminator went back in time, there'd be no Deadpool. I said, you don't like that I say it because it's true. And he just had nothing to say because Deadpool was created at my table, at my desk. I named him. I gave him his origin, his powers, his connection to the Weapon X, the program, the Wolverine. All that stuff was stuff that I requested permission to do. His scarred visage, all of it. His name, his vocation, being a mercenary, a bounty hunter, a gun for hire, the fact that he is funny and that he would insult you and implement what I felt was the personality of Spider-Man that was no longer missing in the darker age of Spider-Man that was happening in the early 90s when everything got much dark and grim and gritty. Without creators, if I am, again, if someone pops me in 1989, Deadpool does not exist. There is no version of Deadpool that exists because it was completely imagined by me. David Michelinie, and I don't know his situation, but he gave us Scott Lang. He brought the Venom to life with Todd. He said we need to come up with a new name, the Originators. And it was funny at the time. I didn't realize how necessary that would be. But we are throwing around the word creator and creation so liberally nowadays. I saw an ad to meet Jim Lee at the Toronto Fan Expo, and it literally says he is the creator of Batman and Superman, which is irresponsible. That's not Jim Lee. That is the convention. What are you doing? That is completely and totally irresponsible. Guess what? Someone sent that to me. I did not seek that out on my own. I know I have it in my phone. I got to go back a couple of weeks. This was a couple weeks back, and it was sent to me, and here it is. So the World Fan Expo Canada, look at that. The world-renowned creator behind Batman and Superman. Come on, that's bullshit. Jim doesn't need you to put a false credit on his name. Jim is legendary in his own right. He doesn't need you, the convention, to tell people who are completely impressionable that he is the creator of Superman and Batman. He is not the creator of Superman and Batman. He is a contributor to stories. The creators deserve a different platform. And I am telling you that some of them will go without a show like this to promote themselves or to promote their, history, their knowledge. We are here to celebrate the people who made the great stuff. And whether it's Jack Kirby, whether it's Stan Lee, whether it's Steve Ditko, it's a passion of mine. And again, George Lucas created Star Wars. Okay, if you come in and tell a Star Wars story, you are not the creator of Star Wars. Okay, if George Lucas hired you to write a screenplay of his story, you are not the creator of Star Wars. It's really funny how fast and loose. In Fan Expo Canada, you shouldn't be misleading people like that. Like I said, Jim Lee doesn't need you to help him. The guy is going to have a turnout regardless of you saying, as I did, I just showed it to you. I didn't talk to you about it. I read it to you. I mean, I literally can't believe this exists. It's irresponsible on every level because you know what? The world-renowned creator behind Batman and Superman. Okay, creator behind no. That's no. Creator of the Hush storyline. Okay. Again, this isn't Jim's fault. This is the promoter being completely irresponsible. Do you know how many people? My wife actually got really irritated about 10 years back when she's like, people think Stan Lee wrote and drew all the stories of Spider-Man and the Avengers and Iron Man. I said, I know, I've encountered them. The media can run away with something. Had Jack Kirby been alive, he would have charmed your socks off. He would have been on the Today Show. He would have been on Good Morning America, on Entertainment Tonight. He would have been interviewed. He would have been walking the red carpets. It's not his fault. Obviously, his life ended 30 years, 20 years before all this really took flight. And it's not Stan's fault, obviously, that he just outlived everybody. And it's not Stan's fault that Steve Ditko was a recluse and didn't want to come out and take his bows and take his notices for Spider-Man. But what it ended up is leading the public to assign creator value to somebody. Like they literally, and I've had people, I mentioned my wife, she's, divorced from this in terms of having a passion for it in the same way that I do, or maybe you do. People will tell you, well, Stan Lee, he wrote and drew Thor and Captain. No, he didn't. And he didn't create Captain America. And Marvel has, in fact, erroneously, and boy, did I scream when that came out. There was a one shot, and they said Captain America created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Oh my gosh, it divorced Joe Simon. Captain America has nothing to do with Stan Lee. Completely created by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, years before Stan was in the comic book business. So this stuff gets carried away, and it's our job to stand up and say something. You may contribute something to somebody along the way, even a Batman story. Frank Miller, nobody in the last 50 years has given more to Batman and reshaped him. And he's another architect, and we'll cover that soon. But he's not a creator of Batman. But some of these talents who have profound artistic footprints in the business, we don't say their names enough anymore. This collection was so popular at the time, and when Marat got the last one, I couldn't get one, so I had to get like I said, I didn't source it. It looks Greek to me. I don't know, but it's a Panini foreign edition. I grabbed it off Amazon, like a foreign edition. Actually, the paper is better than the American edition. But Marshall Rogers got his own collection. And if you did go back in time and pop me, there is no Deadpool. I just want to say that. And I want to say it with a smile. So anyway, Marshall Rogers. This episode was glorifying him as the architect. All those panels, all those individual illustrations I shared to you were to maybe expose you to a great run that you would want in your collection. And at the very least, maybe understand that some of the Batman and the capes and the renditions that you're seeing of him now are sourced back in his work when he hit, as I said, the backwall books in your comic store in the 70s, in the early 80s. This ran, I'd say, almost all the way through the 90s, and Marshall was still alive. Marshall would then again pop up early 80s, 81, 82 on Doctor Strange with Terry Austin again. Blowing around. You want to talk about capes? Again, he goes to one of the more famous capes in the comic book history now with Marvel, with Doctor Strange's cape. The guy was phenomenally talented. I told you he drew some great faces, some great. Let me just show you. Oh, I mean, the guy was just incredible artwork. Incredible artwork. it was more than just the capes, but he really left his signature mark with the cape. But this guy, I mean, he could draw. I mean, just completely amazing work. I highly recommend you get familiar. Again, Neil Adams was doing amazing things with Batman's cape, but it became a signature imprint of Marshall Rogers, how he depicted the capes, and it would go on again to influence Todd and Norm Breyfogle, who did a very long, celebrated, acclaimed run with Batman. The minute I saw Norm Breyfogle's work and how he was depicting Batman, I was like, that reminds me of Marshall Rogers. And again, if Norm was alive, he has also passed away. He, I think, would be able to pin the tail on Marshall and say, yeah, of course I was going for that. Those 30-foot capes, those capes that are impossibly long, but they look so cool on the page, right? Marshall Rogers, an architect of Batman, 1,000%, absolutely a huge influence that maybe you didn't hear about till before today, but I'm here to just, my passion for these creators, their impact burns brighter, hotter than ever, and I love sharing it with you guys. Thank you for listening to the show. Thank you for watching the show. I am so thrilled and so excited when you guys interact. So many of your notifications get sent to me as you are sharing. And you know what? It's been a while since we read the Apple podcast stuff, but you guys have been fairly active in leading, in reading, in leaving responses. And I wanted to share with you guys, because I've told you guys, when you guys leave comments about the show, I will read them here at the end of the show. Each and every episode. We've been doing this for about 5 years now, and a couple of nice new reviews landed, and I want to read this from Bruce J92. Bruce J92, like a second new comic book day. Okay, he says, I look forward to Robservations. He gives us 5 stars. Thank you, Bruce J92. I look forward to Robservations like I look forward to a new comic book Wednesday. Rob's insights are informative and interesting as he gives us somebody from the industry's take on the happenings inside the comic book world, past and present. I know I speak for the majority saying, thank you for the laughs and the interesting stories. I hope they release pickle chips, that's pickle chips Doritos, all year long for you. BJ92 from Whatnot. Hey, he follows us on Whatnot. That's great. I'm gonna talk about Whatnot here really soon. Thank you, BJ92. Thank you for all the great YouTube commentaries and the responses. I try and like them. I try and reply to them. Whether it's over on Spotify, because you know what, let's go give Spotify a twirl here too. You guys are so kind and generous, and leave comments over on the show over on that platform. And you know, I didn't even know there was comments for the longest time. This comment from so I have Jibrael, Jibrael. He says, what I appreciate most is that you make yourself available for the fans. You don't hoard your knowledge, you try to pass it on. Listening to this podcast is like being Luke on Dagobah, and you are my Yoda, ha ha ha, he says. Always thankful for the tips and the secrets as well as the stories. Sending great vibes, Rob. Thank you. This was left just last week from Abriel. And I just appreciate you, and thank you so much for the comments, for taking the time. I know it takes some time. You got to pull that up. You got to type it. You got to send it. You got to load it. And I appreciate it so much. I appreciate the word of mouth that you've given the show, the support that you've given the show across all the different platforms. And now that we're on YouTube, thank you so much for visiting us. I've always wanted to say like and subscribe, and here I am. Please subscribe to the Rob Liefeld Show with Robservations here on YouTube, and thank you for watching and listening on Spotify and on Apple and iHeartRadio and all the different places that carry the show. It is my passion. I love it so much. Thanks for being part of this journey. When I am not doing this show, I am all over social media on the platform formerly known as Twitter, now known as X. I am at Robert Liefeld, RobertLiefeld. Good God, that's a mouthful, but it has a blue check, signifying that it is really me, the genuine article, the real deal. I am there. Love talking with you guys, reading your replies, your mentions, your responses. It is so great to be connected. I love being connected with all of you all around the world. While I was visiting, while I was in Italy, while I was in Athens, while I was in Santorini, so many of you reached out. Hey, Rob, welcome to the country. I'm here in Greece, hoping you'll swing by. I couldn't make it to all the different islands. But it was so great. People from Rome, people from Positano, Amalfi. It's so great that we are so connected on this platform. So I am at Robert Liefeld, blue check over on X. Look me up. I would love to talk to you, interact with you. On Instagram, where I share pictures of what I'm doing, the people I'm hanging out with, the food I'm eating, the family, the friends, some of my trips, certainly the upcoming convention and the comic short appearances that I'll be at. I'll be sharing those with you on Instagram. I am at Rob Liefeld, ROBLIEFELD, blue check again, really me. That is me. I don't have anyone handle my account. I do this. I interact with it. I'm lucky that I haven't been hijacked. That is really me reading your replies, your mentions, your DMs, talking to you. Thank you for the interaction that you give me over on Instagram. As the months roll out, I'll be previewing new pages for my new projects, covers, promotional stuff. You'll see it there first on those platforms. So at Robert Liefeld over on X, at Rob Liefeld on Instagram. We have a great Facebook group. So many of you are jumping on our Facebook group. We would love to have you. It's called Rob Liefeld Marvel Extreme and Beyond. It is run by myself and a gentleman named Terry Sala, S-A-L-A. It'll be Terry or myself who click you on through. We just had one of the greatest art contests. The winner gets to pick the subject, and Vandal, a new character in my Youngblood book, which I've been doing direct to consumer, and we'll get to that in a minute when I talk about Whatnot. Vandal was first dropped as an NFT about 4 years ago with a group called The Defiance, and then he made his debut in the back story in our Brigade remaster that we did about 4 years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Vandal made his debut in Brigade Remaster #1. Well, now he is running through the pages of Youngblood, and he has got a long future ahead of him. And somebody made Vandal the subject of the art contest, and it turned out so great. So many great Vandal drawings. We have so much talent in that group. But each and every episode of this show is given a dedicated post to discuss, to get your feedback, your interactions. But we are a great, fun group. We don't allow for arguments, troll wars, flame wars, none of that. It's very up with people, good vibes. Rob Liefeld, Marvel Extreme and Beyond. We have great art contests. We have great interactions. We would love for you to join us. It's a group, not a page. It's a group. Rob Liefeld, Marvel Extreme and Beyond. We will look forward to seeing you through. Hopefully click you on through. See you on the other side. Whatnot. We'll be back this week. I am debuting. I, in secret, have started a new Bad Rock series, and I did it with a phenomenal new talent. He's been around. Of course, I thought I'd have some of his pages in reach because I was buying his pages, his commissions before I hired him. His name's Seth DeMoose. He illustrated Bad Rock #1 from my story. There will be a Bad Rock new series, and he is the artist. And we are doing an Ashcan that drops. So many of the pre-sales have already happened, but you should jump on. We've held a few outside in case all the pre-sale orders for the show. I think it's Wednesday. We are on Wednesdays generally, and then Fridays or Saturdays. But go to Whatnot. Follow me, Rob Liefeld. The Bad Rock Preview Ashcan is just one of the exclusive items that we offer. So many of my direct to consumer products. Last Blood, a story that takes place 30 years in the future of the Extreme Universe. Youngblood, the new Youngblood that is available only direct to consumer at this time until it launches mass market, maybe late in the fall. All of this stuff, exclusive variants on Deadpool, on Captain America, on Cable, on X-Force, on Spider-Man, on Evangeline, Prophet, all of the characters that I've created and participated in, not obviously Captain America I participated in, but so much of the stuff that I've actually created, I invested in doing exclusives and offering them exclusively for you through our live stream shows, which are generally 99% on Whatnot. And be ready, because come San Diego week, which is in about a month from now, we're going to have a lot of stuff. We're going to have giant size Youngblood #1, which is me celebrating the 50th anniversary of Giant Size X-Men with my own giant size experience, which I've always wanted to do. Been wanting to do this for about 25 years, and finally am doing it and I'm offering it to you. Can't wait for you to see it. That'll be something that you get from me in person at San Diego Comic-Con through my website, robliefeldcreations.com. But we will have one night that there will be a Whatnot edition. So you're going to want to follow me on Whatnot and be able to get some of the products that we offer exclusively through there. I also do exclusive signatures, blood splatter chisel, a standard chisel, a drop shadow chisel. What is a chisel? You got to tune in and find out for yourself. We are really another fun community over on Whatnot. So get Whatnot, get that app, download it, follow me. You'll be notified when I go live. Generally, we schedule them days in advance, but if I just do it, at the spur of the moment, you'll get a notification. So Whatnot, Rob Liefeld, follow me over there. We will look for you. Woo! That's a lot. Marshall Rogers, Batman, that was the focus of the show. Little industry talk. We always love that. We'll do that each and every episode. Thanks for taking me on this, joining me on this journey as I've transitioned, added YouTube to the greater aspects of this show. And man, I just love hanging out with you guys. I will be at San Diego Com. We will be having these exclusive drops. A lot of new extreme product. I have just dedicated the last 5 years of my life to doing some really cultivating more stories and building out the catalog that I launched in 1992 when Youngblood #1 launched Image Comics. 33 years going strong. So excited to be producing work and giving it to you. And I'm hedging my bets that I can get this done through 62. So, as the clock turns, I'll have 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, a good 4.5 years ahead of me still. So, can't rely that the eye and the hand will be in the same shape, but where we are right now, doing my very best to do my very best and offer you the very best. And thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening to this show. You guys know that at the end of each and every episode, I hope and wish that you are doing your very best, that you are doing well, that you're emotional, your physical, your mental, and your spiritual self, your well-being is exactly where you need it to be. If not, you guys, get off the treadmill. Take a day, take an afternoon for yourself. Go out and go see that movie. Okay, I got so many movies to catch up on because I didn't see jack or squat since Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. I got so many movies to catch up on. Go to dinner, go to coffee, catch up with your friends, your family. Just the treadmill can grind us, all down, and we're all carrying burdens. We're all carrying something. I got 3 kids. I tell my wife all the time, they're the foremost in my mind, and I'm always thinking about my kids, their futures. We all have family, friends. We have trials, we have tribulations, we have stuff, we have goals, we have stuff that we're trying to achieve. All of it takes tremendous effort, but the grind of life can just, be a huge burden. And I found that just taking some time, going out with ice cream with my wife, taking a Jeep ride, just taking a walk in the park. We have a great lake here nearby that we'll walk around and experience and have a great time. And I'll come back totally refreshed and ready to re-embrace the day or the week. And I'm pulling for you. We're all human. We're all combined. We're all connected. And I am rooting for you. I wish you nothing but the very best. I brought with me 20 big cups on my trip. I brought a few home. I didn't manage to eat them all. I couldn't eat them all. I said, I can't eat all of these. Sometimes, that dessert, that meal, that big, I can't believe I don't have another one to physically, one of these days I'm going to remember and physically hold them up because they are my passion. That one big cup will give me 90 seconds, woo, of distraction and juice and excitement, whether it's candy, whether it's dessert, whether it's that great dish of pasta. Man, did I eat some good pasta on vacation. Whether it's that great meal that you're going to have with your friends, your family, whatever it is, we just are wishing you all the best and rooting for you. Boom, two fist, boom, boom, into this Blue Yeti microphone. And hope you're having a great summer. Get out, enjoy the day, the long evenings. It's my favorite. It's when summer ends, I get so sad. I'm still a little kid inside. And just hope all the best for you. Wishing you the best. Come back. Pick me up. I'm right out here. I'm right here. Do not forget me. Do not leave me behind. We are gonna, you know the deal. We are definitely, absolutely, and drum roll please, inevitably, we are going to talk again real soon.